The distinction between committed and discretionary costs is important when evaluating decisions. Some costs, like rent, are committed. These costs are not easily changed and are often fixed. For example, once a company has decided to rent a place, the rent has to be paid regardless what happens. The cost of the rent remains as long as the company stays in the same location. If the company wants to lower this cost, it needs to relocate. Depreciation is another committed cost. Once an asset has been acquired, it loses value through its use and the passage of time. Nothing can be done to stop depreciation other than selling the asset. Salaries are also committed, in that once a company hires a person, it is committed to paying her, and only a drastic decision, like firing her, can eliminate that cost. Committed costs are typically irrelevant to short-term decisions because the commitment extends over the long term. In contrast, discretionary costs are costs that can be adjusted relatively quickly. The costs of marketing, training, and research are typically discretionary costs because managers have the power to determine them. They are not variable costs because they do not change with volume, so are often treated as fixed. Discretionary costs are relevant to certain operating decisions. For example, a company can choose how much they want to spend on marketing. So even if discretionary costs are treated as fixed, they are often very relevant. Decisions on discretionary costs are not easy. Managers usually don't know whether spending an extra 20,000 euros in promotions will lead to enough additional sales to cover this extra cost. Therefore, managers have to gather as much information as possible to understand how demand varies with discretionary costs. But ultimately, the decision hangs on their own judgment. Even if managers have control over discretionary costs, some companies may eliminate this flexibility to simplify decisions. Some plan a fixed amount of discretionary expenses every year and treat it as a committed cost. Others plan a percentage of sales and transform discretionary costs into variable costs. Another concept associated with committed and discretionary costs is that of engineered costs. It is usually applied to variable costs and means that certain costs automatically come with a certain decision. For example, a table manufacturer decides to sell an additional 100 tables. Material costs will automatically increase. If this manufacturer decides not to sell the additional tables, then these variable costs do not happen. This is why they are relevant. They are engineered into the decision.